the endless fire. The war had gone on for over 200 years. No one even remembered how it started. Some said it began over a border dispute. Others believed it was because of old grudges between the star empires. What everyone did know was that the war had no end. Planet after planet had fallen. Armies had been raised and destroyed. New weapons were built only to be matched by deadlier ones. The two main powers, the Varnock Alliance and the Drell Union, were locked in a brutal
deadlock.
Neither side could win. Neither side could stop. Every time one gained ground, the other struck back harder. Entire systems were turned to dust. The stars shone dimmer in regions where the war had passed. Refugees filled the galaxy. Trade routes died. Hope vanished. In the middle of this chaos was a small blue planet, Earth. Earth had stayed silent during the war. Too young, too far, too isolated. Some thought the humans were peaceful. Others believed they were simply afraid. Either way, they never joined the fight. They watched from afar. They studied. The galactic powers ignored Earth. What could a single planet offer in a war of fleets and superweapons? Humans were seen as curious but harmless, not worth attention, not a threat. But Earth had been preparing. Humans didn't forget the war. They observed every move, every mistake. They watched the Varnock's plasma walls fail and the Drell's stealth ships crumble. They listened to screams across comms. They calculated loss and power, and they built. Deep beneath their oceans, they constructed machines. In orbit, they placed stations invisible to scanners. Their scientists didn't sleep. Their generals didn't rest. Every invention was a secret. Every ship was hidden. They called it Project Final Silence. Then one day, the war hit a peak. The Battle of Graven Rift, 10,000 ships, both sides, all in. It was supposed to end the war, but it didn't. The battle lasted 17 days. The final count, 0 winners, 1 million dead, and no ground gained. Only wreckage, the galaxy cried out. Even neutral races begged for peace. The war was poisoning everything. But the Varnock and Drell leaders were too proud. They refused to stop. That's when Earth sent a message. It was short. It read, "We have watched long enough. Step aside." The message was ignored at first. The Drell laughed. The Varnock didn't even reply. Earth? The quiet planet? They had no army, no power. But 3 days later, something changed. Over the ruined skies of Graven Rift, a ship arrived. Just one. It was black, smooth, silent. No ID tags, no engine trail. It moved through wreckage like a ghost. Sensors couldn't lock on. Communications failed. Scanners returned nothing. But then it spoke. A single voice, deep and clear, echoed across every channel in range. This war ends now. Then the ship fired once, just once. A white beam cut through the battlefield. It didn't explode, it didn't scream. It simply passed through, clean, cold, perfect. Within seconds, every remaining warship, Varnock and Drell, stopped moving. Dead. No noise, no resistance, no survivors. The beam had destroyed engines, weapons, and mines. Ships drifted, crews vanished. The Boer galaxy stood still. One strike. One moment. One decision. The humans had hit once, and the war was over. Shock across the stars. The silence after the strike lasted longer than the war ever had. From the edges of the galaxy to its crowded core, species, old and new, stared at their screens in disbelief. The great battlefield of Graven Rift, once the most violent place in known space, was now a graveyard. Hundreds of battleships, cruisers, and fighters floated dead in space. There was no fire, no explosions, just silence and ruin. The strange black ship, the one that fired the single beam, remained still in the center. It didn't speak again. It didn't need to. The message was clear. For 200 years, Every race had tried to stop the war. Peace talks failed, weapons failed, alliances broke. But Earth, the quiet planet, had done what no one else could. They had ended the war with one shot. Questions flooded the galaxy. Who were these humans really? What had they built? Why now? And, most important of all, what would they do next? The Drell Union called an emergency meeting. Their leaders, once proud and defiant, now sat in fear. The High Commander slammed his fist on the table. Where did they get that weapon? That wasn't plasma. That wasn't dark matter. It was something else, something new. A Drell scientist whispered. It didn't destroy. It erased. As if time and space bent around the energy. No ship should do that, said another. No species should have that kind of power. Meanwhile, in the Varnock capital, the council argued in whispers. They tried to act brave, but their faces were pale. One counselor asked what many were thinking. What if the humans don't stop here? They had studied Earth's history before. It showed patterns of kindness, yes, but also of rage. When pushed, humans didn't fight forever. They ended things, quickly, sometimes brutally. The smaller civilizations didn't meet in war rooms. They met in prayer halls. They called the strike a warning from beyond. Some said the humans were not a race, but a test. A force sent by the universe to judge those who let the galaxy burn. Fear spread. But on Earth, everything was quiet. The black ship returned home. No one saw where it landed. No signals came from Earth. No celebrations, no threats. Just silence. A message was sent. A day later, plain, cold, simple. Let peace remain. If not, we will return. The Varnock Alliance and Drell Union both surrendered, not to each other, but to peace. Ceasefires were signed within hours, prisoners were released, mining rights were shared, war factories were shut down, borders were erased. Peace returned not by talks, but by fear. But fear of what? That was the mystery. No one had seen the weapon clearly. No one knew how it worked. And no one, not even the oldest races, understood how Earth had hidden such power for so long. Some believed it was not a weapon at all, but a human. One person. One mind. One will strong enough to change fate itself. Rumors grew. Legends started to form. And in dark corners of space among the surviving captains and soldiers, a quiet oath began to spread. Never challenge the humans. Never forget Graven Rift. The Watchers of Earth. After the war ended, many expected Earth to step forward, to lead, to rule, or at least to explain. But Earth said nothing more. The silence was almost worse than the beam. Diplomatic requests flooded toward the solar system. Messages came in every language. Some begged for friendship, others offered trade. A few cautiously asked about the weapon. All were ignored. Earth's gates remained closed. Their satellites didn't respond. Their ships didn't move. The humans had acted once, and then vanished back into the dark. So the galaxy watched. Dozens of spy probes were launched toward Earth. Some were cloaked. Some disguised as asteroids. Every one of them disappeared before reaching Mars. No explosions, no debris, just gone. That only made things worse. Across neutral space, new organizations began forming, the Watchers being the most powerful. Their mission: observe humanity, understand their tech, and make sure Earth never fired again. The Watchers set up bases on moons near Earth's system. They hired the best alien minds, scientists, hackers, and tacticians. They studied Earth's ancient transmissions, old radio, television, books, films, books. They tried to understand the mind of the species that had ended the war in one moment. What they found made them uneasy. Humans had stories of peace, but also of total war. They wrote songs about love and poems about destruction. Their leaders changed often. Their people disagreed constantly. Yet when united, they became unstoppable. Even their games, fictional ones, spoke of domination, survival, and revenge. One researcher said, "They dream of power, but they fear their own rage." That's why they wait. But if pushed, They finish it. The Watchers tried sending a small drone to Earth's orbit again. Just one, just to watch. It returned in pieces, burned clean. But not all were afraid. Some believed Earth should be challenged. They called themselves the Flameborn, a scattered group of old warlords, mercenaries, and captains who had survived the war. They hated the fact that peace came through fear. They believed strength should be earned through battle, not warnings. Their leader, a scarred alien named Brawl, stood before his followers and growled. One strike made the galaxy kneel. But what if that strike was all they had? He planned to test it, to provoke Earth, to see what would happen if someone pushed the humans again. The Watchers warned against it. Other species begged him to stop, but Brawl had seen the war. He had lost everything, and in his anger he didn't believe the humans were gods. He believed they were lucky. So Brawl gathered a fleet, not large but sharp. 10 ships, stealth, systems, elite crews. All veterans of the old war, they headed toward Earth. Back on Earth, under silent oceans and deep mountain vaults, lights began to glow. Something had been watching the galaxy the whole time, and it was waking up again. The second approach Brawl's fleet moved quietly through the outer edge of the solar system. The ships were built from war wreckage, refitted with cloaking tech, and loaded with experimental weapons. They were invisible to most scanners, except Earth's. As the ships passed Neptune, Earth still said nothing. No warning, no message. The silence encouraged Brawl. Inside his lead ship, the Iron Maw, Brawl grinned. He believed the humans were hiding behind a myth. One shot, one trick, and the galaxy trembled. But no race could truly hold that much power, and never use it again. He spoke to his crew, calm and steady. We won't fire first, we'll get close, we'll force them to talk, and if they don't, we make them. The ship spread into attack formation, moving in a wide arc, like a net around the planet. By the time they reached Earth's moon, the stars above seemed still. Earth was quiet, shining blue and peaceful. No defenses were visible, no fleet. No alarms, just clouds, just water, just waiting. Then one of Brawl's ships vanished. No warning, no weapon trail, just gone. The crew panicked. Was it hit? No signs of attack, nothing on sensors. Brawl remained calm. He thought maybe the ship malfunctioned. It had happened before. But then the second ship vanished, followed by a third. This time, alarms screamed. The crew scrambled. Weapons were armed, shields raised, engines spun up. Still, no enemy in sight. Then Earth sent a signal, not through comms, but directly into their minds. Each member of the fleet heard it at once, a single cold thought planted deep in their brains. Leave now. Some screamed in terror. One collapsed. 2 others tried to retreat immediately. But Brawl shouted, "No, stay. It's just a trick. They can't kill us all." Then the dark sky around Earth shimmered. Not ships, not weapons, but voids, openings. In space itself, black rings of light twisted into existence, revealing something never seen before. Something old, something vast. They were guardians, Earth's hidden machines. They didn't look like ships. They looked like stars bent into form, each with spinning cores of white energy and bodies made of living metal. No sound, no exhaust, just presence. 12 of them, each floating with silent intent. One moved, and Brawl's ship, the Iron Maw, was crushed in mid-space. Not exploded, crushed. As if a giant hand had closed around it and squeezed. It happened. In total silence. Brawl didn't even have time to scream. The remaining ships broke formation and fled. But the Guardians did not follow. Instead, the same thought echoed again, calmer this time, but final. We do not seek war, but we remember. We always remember. Far away on a neutral moon, the Watchers received the signal. They watched the ships disappear one by one and recorded the message, and they understood the meaning. Earth had not fired again. Earth had warned, and only those who ignored it had vanished. The galaxy finally understood humans weren't rulers. They weren't invaders. They were something worse for those who crossed them. A last resort. Whisper of the Ancients. The destruction of Brawl's fleet sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Within hours, the story spread. Across every station, ship, and world, beings whispered the same message. The Guardians are real. Many had doubted Earth's true power. Some believed the strike at Graven Rift was luck or a hidden bomb. But now they had seen something else, something ancient and alive, floating in space, obeying no known science. The 12 Guardians were not machines in the normal sense. They didn't follow orders. They didn't respond to signals. They only acted when Earth was threatened. And when they acted, they did so with cold, absolute force. The Watchers held an emergency council on their hidden base near Alpha Rax. The top minds of 5 different species gathered in one room, faces grim, voices low. One scientist, an old gray-skinned thinker named Tovar, stood and addressed the others. They are not ships. They are constructs of layered spacetime, sentient structures. We believe they may be older than Earth itself. Another asked, then how does Earth control them? Tovar shook his head. They don't. Earth hosts them. Maybe they built them long ago. Or maybe the Guardians chose Earth. The idea was terrifying. What if the humans didn't build these weapons? What if they merely awakened them? Another theory came from a historian of the Zealand species. She presented a translation from an ancient scroll found on a forgotten world, thousands of years before humans entered space. The scroll spoke of a race that once ended a galactic war with a voice of light and a hand of silence. Many dismissed the scroll as myth until now. The final line read, "They strike only once. If that fails, they erase." On Earth, daily life moved on. People walked in cities. Children played in parks. There were no parades, no news about the fleet, no signs that anything had happened. But beneath the oceans where the Guardians slept again, small signals pulsed through Earth's crust. Not warnings, memories. One of Earth's defense commanders, a man named Rain, stood in a dark command room beneath Antarctica. He looked at the glowing screens showing the galaxy's reactions. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. Behind him, a younger officer whispered, "Should we explain to them? Tell them we're not a threat?" Rain replied softly. "They saw what they needed to. We told them once, peace is our choice, not our weakness." "Do you think they'll try again?" the officer asked. Rain's eyes stayed on the screen. "Someone always does. But next time, they may not get a warning." Meanwhile, far beyond the edge of known space, a dark council gathered. Unlike the Watchers or the Warlords, these beings didn't fear Earth. They studied power, and Earth had shown them something worth chasing. They called themselves the Hollow Stars. To them, the Guardians weren't monsters. They were tools. If Earth could awaken such forces, then those forces could be stolen. One of them whispered, "If we can claim even one, we will not just rule this galaxy, we will own it." They began their plans, quietly, slowly, in the dark, and Earth listened. The Hollow planned deep in the cold of uncharted space. The Hollow Stars moved in secret. They were not like other civilizations. They had no home world, no culture, no art. They were a council of minds shaped by hunger, for control, for fear, for legacy. And now, their eyes were fixed on Earth. The leader of the Hollow Stars was a creature called Voran, not truly alive, not fully machine. His body was thin as bone, covered in metal veins, and his mind stretched across dozens of satellites. He had watched Earth for years. He believed power should not be hidden, it should be claimed. "Earth has awakened something ancient," Voran said to his council, "but they do not deserve it. They use it like a hammer, once and then silence. That is weakness." A voice from the shadows spoke. "They didn't need to use it more than once." Voran smiled. "All the better. It means they do not understand its full potential." The Hollow Stars didn't plan to attack Earth directly. They were smarter than Bral. Instead, they would try something else: infiltration. Their plan was simple, but risky. They would disguise one of their agents as a peaceful traveler. He would arrive through official channels, requesting an audience, as a scholar, offering to share knowledge with Earth in exchange for a cultural visit. But beneath his skin, hidden by advanced cloaking fields, he carried something dangerous: a data parasite, designed to find and copy Guardian signals, then transmit them to the Hollow Star's own forges. The agent was called Laris, and he had never failed a mission. Laris arrived in Earth orbit aboard a small golden vessel, unarmed, with an official seal from the Galactic Peace Corps. Earth let him in. He was received in a floating city above the Atlantic Ocean: clear skies, soft winds, shining towers built on blue waves. The humans were polite, quiet, watchful. They didn't treat him as a threat, but they didn't trust him either. Laris met with scientists, historians, and cultural officials. He praised Earth's beauty. He asked careful questions. He smiled. But every night when alone in his room, the parasite inside him scanned deeper into Earth's systems. It searched for Guardian codes, awakening signals, energy paths, anything. For 4 days, nothing worked. Then on the 5th night, a strange pulse returned. It came from deep beneath the ocean floor, one of the Guardian chambers. The parasite locked on. Transmission ready. Laris smiled. He pressed his hand to the glass window overlooking the sea and whispered, "Soon, you won't be special anymore." But he didn't notice the reflection behind him. A man stood there, quiet, calm, human. He hadn't opened the door. He hadn't made a sound. He said only one word: "No." Before Laris could move, the room bent. Not physically. Reality itself twisted. The air shimmered, the glass cracked, and the parasite inside him screamed. Laris collapsed, choking. His vision blurred. The codes in his head unraveled. Then a new voice echoed through the room. Not human, not machine, but something deeper. "You came seeking what is not yours. You failed." It was a Guardian, speaking through space itself. The parasite died. Laris went still. Earth sent no message, no explanation. But across the galaxy, the hollow stars received one piece of data. Just one. It was not a code. It was a warning. "We are not your weapon. We are Earth's answer." Earth's final message, the failed infiltration, shattered the hollow stars' confidence. Their strongest agent, their most advanced parasite, and their best plan, destroyed without a trace of violence. No explosions, no alarms, not even a death. Report. Just silence and a message. "We are not your weapon. We are Earth's answer." It was a message heard not just by the hollow stars, but across dozens of listening posts in neutral space. The Watchers intercepted it. The Drell and Varnock picked it up too. Even the oldest forgotten species who hadn't joined the war listened, and they understood something new. The Guardians were not just machines. They were not weapons of war. They were a judgment. They did not serve anyone, not even humans. But they responded to Earth. They woke for Earth. They defended Earth. That made the humans more than powerful. It made them untouchable. On Earth, things remained the same. People lived. Children laughed. Trains ran. Satellites spun. The stars above sparkled like always. But beneath the oceans, the Guardians stirred again. Not in anger, not in fear, but in awareness. They were watching more than Earth now. They were watching the galaxy, not to conquer it, not to control it, but to keep it from falling again. In the Galactic core, a council formed. Leaders from every surviving race, Drell, Varnock, Zealand, Mir, and more, met on a newly built space station called Unity Point. For the first time in history, they agreed on something without debate. Earth will not be provoked. Again, they signed a treaty, a real one. No tricks, no delays. It was called the Graven Pact, named after the battle Earth ended with one strike. The pact declared peace as law. War, once endless, was now punishable by exile from the stars. Years passed, the galaxy rebuilt, trade returned, planets healed. Songs of war became stories of warning, and on quiet nights, pilots flying near Earth would sometimes see shapes in the dark, massive, motionless guardians just beneath the black sky. They never moved. They never spoke. But their presence whispered a truth every species now understood. Earth does not rule the stars, but Earth is the reason they're still shining.